So in this segment, I want to discuss Nigel Farage potentially being propped up by Elon Musk, rumours of £100 million donation or dollar donation from Elon, which obviously is technically illegal. But there are ways to kind of funnel it into the UK. Steve Baker, Brexit hardman, saying it'd be a waste of money. I think the thing is, right, depending on what you want, do you think Nigel Farage is going to win an election? Probably not. Is he going to shift the Overton window massively to the right wing? 100% yes. He's already done that on things like immigration, and he will continue to do that especially if he receives this kind of funding. And the issue with the UK is that it's not hard to do that. In terms of actually funding the UK. We'll discuss this in a minute, but I do want to discuss the media don't really understand Farage, but we'll do this a bit more on the Elon Musk thing.
Say Elon Musk is pretty active on social media platforms, and he definitely hasn't shut down the suggestion that he might give the party $100 million.
Which, again, isn't a lot of money for a billionaire. And so what that means is he can easily donate this and win influence, which is what he wants. There was a video with him with Giorgia Meloni, the leader of Italy, fairly recently, because that's what he's buying. He's buying influence.
Nigel Farage as well, of course, the leader of Reform, has said that he and Elon are in touch. He hasn't also poured cold water on it, but said he doesn't know anything about it. But I mean, this could be a serious, serious problem for not just the Tories, but also the Labour Party. There are some suggestions that, number one, he would be able to make this donation by essentially doing it through the UK subsidiary of X rather than as a foreign donation. If you do a foreign donation, it's capped at a certain amount, so that's much harder to do. But there was a suggestion
to show you how leaky the UK is in that respect.
This morning in the papers that maybe the UK government might do something like a suggestion of trying to cap any donations from political parties at £100,000. Essentially, I think, because
that's way too high. £100,000 are way too high. But again, it's something we'll discuss in a few minutes. But the Labour Party are reliant on big donations because the fact that they've lost a lot of memberships under Starmer because of not only the political direction that they have taken, but the fact that they've attacked their own kind of party base, as well as going through really nonsensical legal challenges and wasting tens of thousands of pounds.
They are pretty concerned about this. In their manifesto, they have committed to protecting democracy by strengthening the rules around donations to political parties. But I mean, Elon Musk is already a bit of a thorn in their side, saying that Britain's a tyrannical police state, suggesting that Reform are going to win the next general election.
Again, that's nonsense, but what he will do again is push the Overton window massively. That's what his goal is. And, the thing with the media class is they don't really understand Farage, and that's one of the other things that makes him a bit dangerous, because there is, when they talk about the metropolitan elite and all of that nonsense, right? To an extent, they're not wrong, and I think the media class are a bunch of people who never really understand this, and that's one of the reasons why Brexit happened. These were the people who platformed Farage because he was good for views, etc., and they never knew how to deal with him.
We were at the Spectator Parliamentary Awards last night, and they have a sort of list of slightly tongue-in-cheek awards, and one of them was for Newcomer of the Year, Parliamentary Newcomer of the Year. And I turned to the person next to me and I said, that's going to go to Nigel Farage.
I said the same.
And they said, no, he's not a newcomer, And I said, yeah, that's the gag. He lost 7 times, now he's won, he's the newcomer in Parliament. And sure enough, Nigel Farage gets up to accept the Newcomer of the Year award, and it was quite interesting. There's a smattering of applause, and I thought that it's always a moment where you're trying to work out if the room is ecumenical. Has everyone met, irrespective of their party and their policies and their differences, to say, let's celebrate sort of politics or parliament or government or, journalism or whatever. It's a sort of meeting of lots of, the good and the great from all sorts of different arenas, I suppose.
It's also filled with self-deprecating humour about yourself, your own party.
Generally,
it
is.
It's kind of, there's a lightness of tone.
They played the Trump music, proud to be an American. And up he walks on the stage and he said, well, thank you, it's lovely to be the newcomer. I'm just telling you that at the next election, there will be hundreds of newcomers, and they will be Reform newcomers, and we will be forming the next government. And he sat down and the room went utterly silent. And it was a sort of dual moment, I think, where people heard what he said and believed what he said, but no one was clapping. And that was the moment when I suddenly realised, as we talked about a little bit on the show yesterday, that Labour and the Conservatives have sort of come together.
And no one was laughing. Which they would have done.
Nobody
probably
rejected it,
12,
exactly.
24.
Which again, I don't think they're gonna get anywhere near 100, to be honest. Because their problem will be their vote is split really amongst three parties, which is Labour, the Conservatives, and obviously themselves. So split two ways or three ways, depending on how you want to define that. And I think that's going to be their biggest problem. It's always been UKIP's biggest problem, unless you get a real collapse of the Conservative Party, which I don't think we'll see this time around. I think we'll see kind of Reform kind of eat more into the Labour and Tory vote, but I think we won't see a full collapse. Maybe after, into the 2030s, we'll see it, but I don't even know if Farage will be around that long, considering he's quite old.
So exactly that. That was what was so interesting about it, was that you just it was like we'd been in this jokey, fun party, and then someone has just stood up and said something terrible has just happened, and the mood changes like that on a sixpence.
The balloon's burst.
Yeah, the balloon has burst.
But we were left thinking about it. I think everyone, you caught people's eye around the room, and everyone went, "That's entirely possible."
One of the things is that it's kind of like Michael M points out here, who's quite good to follow on Twitter. It's entirely possible because the media continue to platform him, continue to keep him high in everyone's mind, constantly discuss him, because again, he's easier. Like, the thing with the media is it's easier to discuss stories like this rather than discussing the really important stuff, like why is the economy not doing great, or what's going on with the average person, things like that. Like, do proper, really good analysis. It's easier to do these kind of podcasty talk show stuff. And you can argue I'm guilty of this. I'm a dude who does this part-time. These are, people who do this for a living, who are paid very well and have whole research teams that can help them. I'm one dude who's got Twitter and Discord. That's about it. And the fact is, they keep having Farage, like Michael M points out, on Question Time again and again and again, and they constantly platform him, and they have no idea how to deal with him. Labour don't really know how to deal with him. The Tories don't know how to deal with him. The only ones who probably do are like the Greens and maybe the Lib Dems, and that's about it. And so, because they constantly keep having him on shows, this is what gives him power. If you don't talk about him, he loses a lot of the power he has, because all he has is social media. That's it. But again, they constantly want to discuss him because he's good for views. That's all it is. It's like the Trump thing where he'll keep saying outrageous things because he knows that gets him coverage. He'll keep saying outrageous things because he knows he gets him coverage, and so the media will keep covering him because he says outrageous things and gets them views and is easy to cover. And it's just a perpetual doom loop. That's the problem. And so it's endlessly frustrating for me to watch it because I can see it. This is the reason why I'd rather focus more on Labour than I would on Reform, because that's the important thing, moving Labour as best we can and putting pressure on them in order to make better decisions, because that's what disarms far right groups like Reform, is when the centrist parties kind of fail. That's when you see a move towards populism, be that left-wing populism or right-wing populism. It's the failure of capitalism. That's what causes it. And that's what these people don't understand. They keep giving him power by talking about him. In terms of discussing, the funding issues, that I saw this clip here.
You can set up a shell company tomorrow. I mean, actually in a few hours. And because you have that company, you can be from anywhere in the world, but then you can donate to UK political parties. So that itself is a major loophole. What the Times article is saying is that he would donate through the UK headquarters of Twitter or X.
That's what the other journalist mentioned earlier.
And therefore that would be allowed, but presumably he's going to have to shift some money around to make sure that he can make those donations. And I think it's really worrying, and this is a loophole that experts, from the Electoral Commission to a range of people, experts, academics, Electoral Reform Society have highlighted, makes a UK system absolutely like a sieve. Money can come in from wherever and influence our elections, and it's got to change. And I think the issue is that the incoming government have also been quite reliant on very big donations at the last election. They did promise us a new Elections Act, essentially in their manifesto. It didn't make it into the King's speech, but it's really important that they get on with it. And everyone, all your listeners and the country, really engage with this, because this is about protecting our democracy.
This is what I mean about pressuring Labour, because, again, Labour are very reliant. Labour got more donations than other parties combined, which, again, it's because of, you know, businesses and things like that. These are the ones who donated to Labour. That's why there was so much fury at the CBI recently over Rachel Reeves' actions, because I think a lot of business said, look, we gave you donations, which is basically an investment, and you screwed us. Our investment didn't pay off. We're big mad. And so Labour are reliant, like I said, they've lost a lot of small donors, effectively members. They've lost that, and they're reliant on their big donors now. That's the problem. And so I'm just kind of miffed at the situation, because I think Labour put themselves in a situation where they're going to have to set an incredibly high cap for donations, or they're just going to have to keep the system as is. And essentially anyone can set up like a limited company and just donate unless you're on the sanctions list. It's an incredibly stupid system that we have. Crazy. And she's right, the UK system is like a sieve, because again, all he's got to do is move some money around, and he can donate to Farage very easily. You know, if this happens, you know, this $100 million donation, it's going to be, he's going to do a lot with it, I think, you know, in terms of you need deposits just to run MPs, but also the media campaign he's going to run. Nigel Farage is prolific on social media, and so he's going to buy, you know, essentially, I wouldn't be surprised if he bought a load of Twitter ads with that money, and it's kind of just a money cycle, effectively, of him, you know, essentially Musk making donations via Twitter, and then Twitter being paid back somewhat via ads. I can see something like that happening. So I am very concerned. You know, the UK, you know, we've seen kind of the interference of Russian money into the UK and the impact that's had. There's also the impact of, you know, Middle Eastern money, Chinese money, wherever it's from, a huge problem. And, you know, the situation is that all of those people, again, who said they'd push Labour to the left, effectively, and said they'd put pressure on Labour to make better decisions, where are they? I don't see them anywhere. You know, at the moment, it's just the people who are calling out Labour really originally that are actually doing something here. You know, because I don't see those guys anywhere, absolutely anywhere. Like I said, they're obsessed with covering reform rather than covering the reforms we need for this country and, you know, the actual changes we need. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.